Being an entrepreneur doesn't even make sense. Why would anybody do this? My life is podcasting, so I do this a lot. So when I started my podcast, I had Guy Kawasaki with Grant Cardone, and then I had Anthony Scaramucci. He talked about a story, like an idea that I think is a really powerful idea. So I'm gonna tell you what he said. He says, Scott, it's just time in the game. It throws people off because it's so obvious, but it's like the one thing that people have the most difficulty with. You only have to win once to make more money than you ever know what to do with.
I was making $500 an hour. That's kind of hard to let go. But the only way to think beyond hourly and think millions is I had to stop.
I'm a big fan of being lazy. I wanted something that I could create once, and then I could put it in as many places as I possibly could. I can take one audio video podcast and probably get like 50 pieces of content from it. That's the reason, one, why you should do video. The second reason is how do you actually like architect that self-belief? But if you have that self-belief and you believe that if someone else can do it, they're not that special, you can figure it out too. I do think that if you do not have that self-belief, more often than not, it's probably because
I'm Manning Sumner. I've lived my life by one motto: no days off. No days off is never taking a day off on you. It's a commitment to becoming your best self. Get ready to be inspired to do the same. This is the Big Dawgs with Manning Sumner.
Scott, what's up, dude? What's up, man?
not much.
Thanks for coming. I gotta tell people, first of all, kind of like how you got on my radar.
Yeah.
I think it's hilarious. So I get this newsletter, all right, in my email, and I'm reading the newsletter, and I literally was like, did this guy just plagiarize my entire movement and phrase? And like the title of it was like no days off, and then the whole thing was no days off. But like you actually wrote it better than me, like that I could. You wrote it in such an eloquent, it was a beautiful freaking newsletter. And I'm literally like, I passed it on to my staff. I'm dead. I like rewrote it and then sent it to other people.
Bro, you need to say that you wrote it. I don't give a
Well, it's funny because Amber actually was going to post something one day on my Twitter, and I was like, or X, whatever the heck you call it, and I was like, that's actually Scott wrote that. I didn't write that. But it was just so dead on of what I'm doing and how I've lived my life. And I was like, man, I got to get in touch with this guy because obviously we're like-minded.
Yeah.
He's doing big things with the right mindset. And so first and foremost, just thank you for being here. Can't wait to hear more about your story. And I'm going to do a little bit of brief, let people know who you are. Unless you want to kind of do that. Then why don't you do it?
Yeah, I can talk.
Tell everybody a little bit like who you are, where you came from, just
Sure.
to kind of set the stage.
Cool. And first of all, I want to say thank you for having me, dude.
Yeah.
And the second I sent that newsletter out, and then I think you DM me, and then I hit the DM, and then I'm like, damn, this is the right guy. Because I saw the gym, I saw all the branding. I'm like, shit, this is perfect. This is absolutely perfect. And everything you built is, I think, like the exact same mindset as the way that I think. And you know, a lot of the newsletters that I write, you can go and talk about tactics every single day on how to build a business, how to build the life you want, how to build the relationship, build the body, whatever you want. But at the end of the day, it's all about the mind. And I think that what I try and do with my content and what you do as well is you're like, listen, this is the playbook, this is the rule book, but it's no good if you don't have the right mindset. And I think that you can't have one or the other, you have to have both. And I think that that's what we both, hopefully we do it okay. And we teach that sort of duality of having both things. So right now, my life is podcasting. So I do this a lot. Usually I'm the only one asking questions, but I've had a podcast. Yeah, right. I've had a podcast called Success Story, where I interview some incredible entrepreneurs. I've interviewed, and I mean, I think we're at about 850 episodes.
Wow.
So it's been happening for a minute now, like about 6.5 years.
So that puts you in, to put that in perspective, that puts them in like the top 1% of podcasts. So Amber and I have been doing our research on that. Like basically 90% of podcasts don't make it past episode 10. And then if you make it past episode 100, you're like in the top 10%. So you're like definitely in the top 1%. So amazing.
Well, I mean, like, you know, we'll talk about that. Like, what does it take to win? Staying in the game long enough.
Yeah.
I mean, I can talk to you about a million different strategies, and if you care about them, we'll tell you how to, you know, grow a podcast. But what's the most important strategy? 850 episodes 6 years later. And why is Joe Rogan winning? I don't even know. With 3,000 episodes, and why is Tim Ferriss winning? It's just time in the game. And part of winning at anything, at business, relationship, fitness goals, whatever, it's like, how do you find a way to stay in the game long enough? And I think that advice, it throws people off because it's so obvious, but it's like the one thing that people have the most difficulty with, right? Like, why do relationships end after 5-6 years? They don't want to put in the work. They think the grass is greener over there. Why do people quit on businesses? Because the motivation ran out, and now it's not so fun anymore, and you're dealing with all the BS and I think you could swear bullshit, right?
Yeah.
And like, why do you give up in the gym after January? I don't know, because you don't have anything that's driving you outside of that. It's hard. Anyway, so right now I podcast for a living. I moved down from Toronto down to just down the street. So Miami's beautiful. Thank you for welcoming me to your city. I love the weather. I love the taxes. It's incredible. In my background, in my past, I've worked in tech. I've built companies. I've really just focused on, I don't know. I like playing the build something from scratch, scale it, find a market for that thing, and then eventually sell it. And I've done that for my own companies. I've done that for mentoring and advising entrepreneurs. And that's really where I came from. 6 years ago, I had a company that I was co-founder, chief revenue officer of. I've always been on the sales and marketing side. I helped grow that. That was acquired by a company called Grass Valley. I started my podcast while I was building that company. That's sort of the most recent thing that I've accomplished. And then the podcast has been the one constant over the past 6 years that has really worked out. Don't get it twisted. I've tried to do a whole bunch of other shit that hasn't worked out. But the podcast is the one thing that's continued to grow, and that's still something that I do every single day. I enjoy it immensely. It allows me to, connect with people like yourself. And that's put me on stages. It's opened doors. It's my network is insane because of it, as I'm sure yours is too. So that's what I do now for a living. I podcast, and to give you sort of some numbers, we do about 1 million downloads a month. We're streamed on Cheddar, Hulu, Amazon Prime, DirecTV, it's the most fun I've ever had. Cheddar is like
Amber, take notes.
Yeah, I can hook you up with my contact from Cheddar. Cheddar is a big financial news company.
Oh, okay.
And they look for new business entrepreneur content. Now, the content that I speak about now and that I write about now and the people that I interview, it's not just entrepreneurs. When I first started it, I was talking about the shit that I was doing in my day, which was business, marketing, sales, raising money. And then I found out real quickly that it takes a lot more than that to become successful and to become fulfilled. So it doesn't matter how much money you make. And I know it sounds so cliche, but I know people that have sold companies for 100 million, 500 million. I've sat down with several billionaires. And money is a very small piece of what actually makes them content and fulfilled.
Right.
And I think that in this community, it's less of an issue because this is a health and wellness community. And I generally find that like if people are focused on upskilling themselves and sort of kicking their asses in the gym and making sure that they don't just, start dying at a very young age, I think that they're already on the way to fulfilling all the other parts of their life. But a lot of people in business, they focus on making money, they focus on business success, and then they wake up when they sold their company or they made some amount of money at 50 or 60, and their relationships are shit, and their body is destroyed, and their mental health, their physical health, their spirituality, none of it's there. And then that's when they try and figure out, okay, how do I sort of reclaim some of that? So the goal of the podcast, long story short, is to teach over the lessons and learnings of people who have figured out life financially and show that there's a lot more to excel at than just making money, and what's the playbook to excel across business, relationships, health, wellness, all of it.
And being that you've had all these podcasts with all these high level, people, what do you have kind of now, have you taken from that a blueprint of what that looks like in terms of success? Because like you said, it's not the money, it's all the other things. So, I mean, you have like almost like the greatest case study, right? Yeah. Every single day you're being able to pull from these massively successful entrepreneurs to then either apply back into your life or then to tell the world, like your newsletters. His newsletters are phenomenal, by the way. So
thank you.
So yeah, they're just really great.
So I would say that one of the things that is universally applicable Very easy idea, but I think that it's something that we intuitively know, but we don't do, is just reverse engineering success. It's an idea that I think is very important, not just in business, but again, if you're gonna go work out, look at somebody who you want that body and then reverse engineer how they got there. If you see a couple that's been happy for 25 years and you want a good relationship, maybe spend a little bit more time figuring out why they're still together after 25 years. And same goes for business. I mean, I'll give you very tactical examples. When I say reverse engineer success, even in business, if I'm trying to, right now I'm a creator, I'm in the content game. If I'm trying to succeed at content, that means I have to figure out, okay, so how do I create the best content that's going to hit with the audience, they're gonna love it, they're gonna share it. That means that every thumbnail on YouTube, I'm gonna look at a creator that's putting out the best content on YouTube. I'm reverse engineering the text on their thumbnails, the colors on their thumbnails, the font on their thumbnails. And I have a creator for everything. I have a creator for Twitter. I have someone who I look up to for newsletters. I have someone who I look to for Instagram. And I'm seeing not just who's the biggest, but who's growing the fastest and who's testing stuff out in real time that I can learn from, because I don't have the marketing budgets of some of these like huge creators like a Gary Vee or a Hermosi or even like in the podcast world, a Stephen Bartlett or a Chris Williamson. Like these guys are the guys that I look up to. And I'm like, how do I reverse engineer what they're doing, learn from their multi-million dollar budgets, and then turn their strategy into my strategy. You can do this in anything in life. I do it every single day in business. In my past life when I was more in the startup game, how do you reverse engineer success in a startup game? A lot of people, when they're starting a company, they're trying to figure out how to raise money. And what they do, just to give you some context, is they just send emails to fucking every single person they know asking, can you put money into my company? And usually that's really time consuming and it burns them out because like they're just focusing on as much activity as possible. The concept of reverse engineering success in startup fundraising game would be go to a website like a Crunchbase. They list all the startups, how much they've raised, which VCs have put money in at which dollar amount, and you can say, hey, I'm building a consumer goods premium sparkling water, still water brand. Let me go find another VC that put in the same amount of money that I'm looking for right now at the same, wherever my company is, if it's just starting off, and they put money into a similar type company. And if I go reach out to them, it's not gonna be like throwing shit at the wall and hoping something sticks. You're gonna have a much higher chance of success because you've reverse engineered how someone else has raised money.
Doing this Monday, by the way.
100%. So the point is, anything you're trying to achieve, just reverse engineer what someone else has done. You don't have to reinvent the wheel, like kill the ego immediately.
Right.
And it's a quick path to overcoming all the bullshit that you will inevitably have to overcome on the way to achieving greatness or mastery at anything. But the point is, at least you will have a little bit of a blueprint or a playbook that you can follow. And I think that's one of the more powerful ideas. And even listen, if you're in a job and you're not where you want to be, you're not making the money you want to be making, like reverse engineer how to get to that next promotion or that next title. Like the answers are all out there. And I think that's what I think that's actually what frustrates people. Like the answers are all there. The path that you can follow is there. People try and overcomplicate it, I think, as an excuse because they don't actually want to do the hard work. So if they say, use a gym example, if they join a gym in January and they say, I don't know how to work out. There's so much information on the internet. Everybody has a different diet, different split, different kind of workout. There's CrossFit, there's interval training, there's bodybuilding, whatever. If you spent a week like studying and researching and listening to the people that you look up to as like the fitness thought leaders, you would find very quickly the path that you can take to go on that journey. That's the difficult thing. It's not confusing or complicated. It's just a lot of hard work. And people don't want to do the hard work, so they default to, it's too complicated, it's too confusing, I don't know what to do.
And they almost don't want to hear the plan.
They don't want to hear the plan.
They don't want to hear it. And I think a lot of times, I mean, it could very well be why a lot of people maybe didn't show up today, because they don't want to know how to get better. Because again, it requires work. It requires pouring into yourself. It requires coming to things like this. It requires your time, your energy, your effort. So
if you want to achieve anything, build a business, become an entrepreneur, make whatever amount of money, like the path is already there. Someone's already figured it out. We live in an age where information is everywhere on the internet. It's just a matter of, are you willing to put in the work?
It's interesting that you were saying the reverse engineer thing, because I was blowing up Amber, I think it was yesterday or the day before, but I was plugging into ChatGPT, like, what was Alex Hormozi's most viral Instagram video? What was Gary Vee's most viral YouTube video? What was this? And I was just trying to like gather, like you said, what words that have already been done successfully, and then I'm gonna copy that shit. 100%. Try to see if it sticks for me.
And it does. That's
you know,
the thing.
right?
Yeah.
So it's just what I really get frustrated as a leader and as someone that again, I haven't done enough yet, but I feel like I've done something right. And
You've done a lot of shit right.
the people around me, under me, sometimes avoid exactly what you just said. Like, it's like, here, guys, I'm giving you the blueprint to be the greatest personal trainer you can be, make hundreds of thousands of dollars, but they don't want to do the work, or they don't want to follow the path that I did, you know? And it's like, the best thing you can do is find someone that's done it before you and then learn from them. Like, Nano's, his mentor. I mean, that's how he got into the position he's in, is because of a mentor, someone that's done it before.
And I think that another idea that's important, because again, I'm telling you that it's not complicated, but it's hard work. And the second idea that we kind of touched on before is that, it will be hard work. And you do have to do it for longer than you think it'll take. But the beautiful thing is you only have to win once. Like, you really only have to win once. Right. Because if you can win once at whatever it is you're doing, like, money's irrelevant at that point. And then you can focus on, and hopefully on the journey, you don't just forget the rest of your life in pursuit of money. But at the end of the day, if you just really want to make a shit ton of money, which is what most people worry about when they're young and they're just starting out in their careers, you only have to win once to make more money than you ever know what to do with. That's the truth. So if I'm going to tell you, it's going to take 10 years of nonstop work, it's going to take 15 years of nonstop work, you're like, Scott, 15 years, like, okay, how long are you on this earth?
What are you going to do?
How long are you on this earth?
All right.
For real.
Exactly.
And if you put 15 years into anything, like, you put 15 years of your life into literally anything, you tell me that you're not some degree of success at it, and I'll call you a liar. And I'm not saying that you're doing the same thing for 15 years without learning and improving and iterating and navigating. But any person with half a brain who puts 15 years of concerted effort towards a thing, learns from their mistakes, they'll find a way to become successful at it. So then the lesson in that is, how do you find a way to stay in the game for 10, 15 years, whatever it is? And that's also why I deal with a lot of entrepreneurs, so I always think of an entrepreneur through an entrepreneur perspective. I also think that's why this hustle culture bullshit online is not good. It's good to work hard, but it's not good to hustle till you burn out and you can't stick with it for 15 years. It's not good to quit your job if you have mortgage and kids and you have to put food on the table and you're hoping that with your 60 grand in savings, you can make your business work in 6 months, and you can't. And something goes wrong, and then all of a sudden you have to go back to work. So I think that if you're going to commit to these ideas, you also have to think not just long-term mindset, but how do I structure my life long-term, which could mean you work 9 to 5 and you build your business or your side hustle from 5 to 9, whatever it is. If it's important enough, you'll find time for it. And I think that that's also another very important idea that a lot of people should internalize. Hormozi talks about this all the time. It's going to take longer than you think it will. It'll cost more than you think it will, but if you sit with it long enough, you'll find a way to do it.
Yeah, I literally just watched his most viral YouTube video. It's like 4.5 million views, and he talks about, like, pick one thing. Yeah. One thing. Stop trying to do everything. Pick one thing. And I talked on it earlier, and just do that thing and be the best and better that you can at that one thing. And like you said,
you'll figure it out.
You can't not It can't not work out. Like that much commitment and consistency to something, one thing, it's going to work out. It's not going to be easy, but eventually it's going to pay off. I want you to touch on, because you just said, basically kind of describe No Days Off. And,
You know, that's why we're the same person.
Yeah, exactly. So No Days Off is never taking a day off on you. It's a commitment to becoming your best self. It's not the hustle culture. It's not the grind. It's not that. It's actually finding ways to never take a day off on yourself so that you're bettering yourself for those around you. So talk a little bit about that mindset and how you've applied that to your life and your businesses and then where you're going.
So I think that finding a no days off, I love the idea, because basically you're saying show up every day, show up every day. And I think what a lot of us do is we rush to milestones or we celebrate milestones in our life, but we don't celebrate every single day. Like, it's cliche, but enjoy the journey. It's valid. And when we rush to milestones, say we rush to when we raised $1 million for our startup, or when we close our first big deal, or when we exit the company, or we rush to the milestone when we get married, or we rush to the milestone when we look good and we take a selfie in the gym after like a year of hard work, working out, busting our ass every day. You're missing the point, because you're training yourself to hate every single day, and you're only focused on celebrating the end result. And I think that when you do that, the chances of burnout are much higher, because your life is not made of milestones. Your life is made of individual days. And I think that the no days off mentality means that every single day is something that you have to enjoy and celebrate. And don't just, for example, if you're trying to build a business, make more money, don't just push off all the other shit every single day in hopes of one day exiting your company. Like, every single day, you want to work hard on your business. You want to do something physical. You want to do something that engages you with other people, has meaningful conversation, pushes your relationships to the next level, but incorporate that into every single day so that there are no days off from any of it.
Right.
And I think that the counter argument to that would be like, well, if I'm building a business, I have no time for anything else. And I always tell people to really, I can't remember what the principle is. It's like the work expands to the time you give it. There's a name for it, but it is the most true idea I've ever encountered. If I commit 4 to 6 hours of intense work when I have the highest amount of energy with no distraction, I can get 2 days of work done in that 4 to 6 hours concentrated, versus, I kind of put 2 hours in, and then now I'm distracted and I'm jumping on calls that I shouldn't be jumping on because they kind of seem like cool opportunities, but they're not really in line with what I'm focused on. And then I'm trying to do work while I'm watching Netflix at night, and I'm not talking to my spouse because I'm watching Netflix and working at the same time. And what if you just actually focus on doing everything with 100% intensity when you're doing it every single day, and you'll actually find that every single day can be full of everything you need. And that, in my opinion, is a no days off, where you don't take a break from anything every single day, but you also aren't sacrificing shit every single day either.
Right. I explain it like this. It's living with intention.
Yes.
So it's like when you're with your kids, you're being very intentional that you're present and with your kids. When you're at work, and you're not allowing distractions to come into, listen, if I'm in a meeting and I'm checking emails, I'm writing, or, trying to, emailing all those people trying to get invested in my company, like you just say. I just did that the other day.
Imagine if you, like, in all seriousness, imagine if you were so much more laser focused with your outreach, and you only hit investors that invested in companies exactly like yours.
You hit it on the.
You are going to spend 5% of the time with like a 10x outcome.
100%, definitely.
A lot of people are so stressed now about having kids because cost of living is going through the roof, and they're like, if I have kids, how am I going to afford it? I'm like working 2 jobs, I'm putting all this time and energy, and like, I suffer from this as well sometimes. It fucks with me. But some of my most successful friends, and I've had the privilege of working with some really cool people, like CEOs of publicly traded companies, and they're like, Scott, when I've had kids, like, I became so much more successful because I could only focus on the shit that mattered.
Right.
And when I didn't have kids, all the other bullshit in my day, I pretended like it mattered. It didn't actually move the needle in anything. But the second I was like, yo, okay, I don't want to be an absent, in my case, an absent dad. Now I have 6-7 hours a day of super focus. You know exactly what you have to work on, and you can't bullshit yourself anymore, because if you do, someone suffers. Your kids suffer, your spouse suffers. So I think that if you don't have kids and you don't have that reason yet, find a way to force yourself to think like that. And just, if you have that free time, like, don't take up free time with bullshit, half-assed work.
Right.
Take some free time that you have to think about where you're going in your life. Is the work that you're working on meaningful? Is it taking you to where you need to be, your North Star? Spend it with your spouse, spend it with your parents, spend it with planning your future, spend it with something. But if you're gonna work. If you're not, I don't know. I just think that's a healthier way to, and I think that actually in the post-COVID world, I mean, where a lot of people are working from home, the lines between work and non-work are blurred. So it's way easier to just throw hours away wasting time than it was when you were in an office and then you drove home at the end of the day.
I agree with that 100%. I think that's why they're trying to get everybody back to workers. So someone that's done 893, but like is
About 850, yes. 850, but yeah.
850 podcasts. Can you tell us at least one story, but I'm sure you have many, but like a story on one of your podcasts that just absolutely sticks with you? You know what I mean? Like, cause I've done way less than you, and there's these certain moments that I don't forget, and they kind of like, you know, I'll tell the family, or I'll tell you, I'll be at dinner, I'll be like, listen to this, you know, and it's like, cause it's fun, cause it gives us like those kind of fireside chat moments where we can kind of captivate an audience by telling a cool story.
Okay, so this is one of the first podcasts I did. So when I started my podcast, I had Guy Kawasaki, who was one of like the first Apple employees. I had Grant Cardone, and then I had Anthony Scaramucci, who was like a big finance guy, and he was Trump's director of communications for like 12 days in this first term before like Trump tweeted some shit about his wife, and then he quit, and it was a whole thing. But the point is, the guy's like a big finance guy, and that was sort of his claim to fame. Anyways, so I had some really, I was nervous as shit when I did some of these interviews. I was like, you know, batting way above my league, but whatever. I got some good interviews on early. And one of the conversations I had with Scaramucci, that he talked about a story, like an idea that I think is a really powerful idea. So I'm gonna tell you what he said. So I think, if I remember correctly, and this was again like 6 years ago, but the question was more or less along the lines of, you know, what was the thing that gave you confidence in life? It was something along the lines. It was like a very open-ended, kind of weak question, but whatever. I was already like, I was new. I was very new. And he says, Scott, and the guy's worth like several $100 million now. He runs a big finance conference called SALT. He's like, Scott, if you took away all my connections, all my money, you put me back into the first shitty apartment I had in Brooklyn with nothing but like, you know, pants and like and a t-shirt on, and that's all I had. I have absolute confidence that I could do what I've done again and again and again and again. And this self-belief is something that I think every single, you know, I say successful in air quotes, because when I say successful, they're financially successful. I'm not commenting on all the other parts of some of their lives, but everybody who comes on has achieved significant financial success. And the self-belief, like the absolute self-belief, is just, it's like this X factor in entrepreneurship that I think you have to have. And I think that it is a difference between somebody who takes on the risk, who raises the money, who basically puts himself out there, who goes into massive amounts of debt to pursue a dream. It is just absolute undying belief in yourself to be able to figure it out. It is scary as hell, and honestly,
And we love it.
we love it. It doesn't even make sense. Being an entrepreneur doesn't even make sense. It makes no sense.
None.
Why would anybody do this?
It's like torture every day.
Why would anybody do this? But if you have that amount of belief, if you can find a way, and I've thought through this because this idea has come up again and again and again over the years, and I'm like, how do you actually like architect that self-belief? But if you have that self-belief and you believe that if someone else can do it, they're not that special, you can figure it out too. This is a hack. This is a life hack. Yeah. I do think that if you do not have that self-belief, I think more often than not, it's probably because you're normal and your brain is really good at remembering all the times when you haven't succeeded, and that's what you keep remembering when you try and take risk the next time. And I think that a very simplistic way to start to foster a little bit more self-belief is to keep track of the wins that you have in your life. I think that we win a lot more than we lose. Focus on them. But because if you don't do it purposefully, I don't know if people like.
Do you think that people's natural response is to think negatives rather than positive?
Yeah.
Because I do.
100%.
I think that everybody around me thinks the worst case instead of the best case.
So think about the headlines you read when you're scrolling on MSNBC or Fox or anywhere. You're going to get the worst headlines because that's what sticks in our brain, right? If you think about all the things that have happened in your career, you probably will default the ones that are more clear, the ones that you can like not just faintly remember, but the things that are like, I remember the trauma that happened when I got fired or I got sued or I got dumped. Like, you remember that stuff so clearly.
And I remember it more than, like you said, the wins.
And I think that it's because I think that it's actually a survival mechanism. I think that we have the same brain that we had thousands of years ago from a biology perspective. And I think that when something really bad happens to us, your brain wants you to remember it so that you don't let it happen to you again, because that would be the difference between life and death.
Right.
If we were, a couple thousand, tens of thousands of years ago, right? So I think that we have to realize our own limitations. It's a fallacy that we default to remembering the negative, but it's just what we do. So I think that we have to focus on the success, on the wins, whether or not that's something as simple as like journaling. If you're into that, I mean, you don't even have to do that. If you all have Instagram, seriously, once a quarter, like, just if you post all your wins, your trips, the fun shit you did with friends on Instagram, like, just take a second, like on a Sunday, and scroll and look at how awesome your life has been. And there will be moments that you posted on Instagram. If you post a lot, you probably have already forgotten about that. In the moment, you're like, this is an absolute win. I went on this trip for work, or I just closed this deal and we celebrated, or I just had the opportunity to, meet this awesome person at a conference, or it could be something more personal than that, not business. But the point is, our life is full of wins, but we don't pay attention to them. And when you track those wins, then you can almost logic yourself into saying, well, if I've won so much before, then what are the chances that I could win the next time I take this small risk?
Right.
And then you do that again and again and again. And I think that when you look for that positivity in your life, I think that allows you to take those chances. And then you also combine the other ideas where you're not just taking chances like ad hoc. You're looking at the objective, you're reverse engineering how someone else has done it. And when you start to layer on all of these ideas, all of a sudden risk doesn't seem so risky anymore.
Love that. So I want to open this up because we have absolutely fabulous people in the crowd that have stuck through this whole IndioCon. And I want to open up to questions. So does anybody have a question for Scott?
We can do more tactical stuff too if you want. We're talking a lot of mindset stuff, but
Yeah, Scott.
what's up?
Tell us. I mean, you've been through a lot. You have a lot of successful businesses, but I imagine there have been failures along the way and challenges along the way. What's been the most notable challenge that you can remember, and how did you get through it?
Damn, dude, I just said I'm trying to forget all the bad shit that happened to me. I mean, over the past 6 years, I told you that like the thing I do is podcasts, but I've tried to build, let me just think, 1, 2, 3, 4, like four different, it's all my drama.
She's rolling her eyes.
Yeah. I've tried to build like 4 different businesses over the past 6 years, and they don't exist anymore. I mean, in each one of those, there was some pretty stressful moments because it wasn't like they were just ideas that never turned into anything. Like they were businesses that got off the ground, there was money involved. And one of them was a consumer goods brand. It was like a vitamin supplement brand. We put about $1 million into taking that to market. Didn't work out for a variety of reasons. Another one, we tried to put together a small fund to do company acquisition. Didn't work out. And just for context, when you raise a fund, that's other people's money too that's involved in that, including your own. I've done angel investments that have gone to zero. That's financial loss. I tried to put together like an event, like mastermind type networking business. I didn't know how that business model worked. I've never really been part of it, but I had a cool circle of friends. So I'm like, maybe I can put together something for entrepreneurs. That was less financial and more just like a logistic headache of putting together an event. As you know, it's a lot of work. So, I mean, none of them ended up in like a significantly bad spot. It's usually about, okay, this isn't working out. What are the hard conversations that I have to have? How do I make right by the people that trusted me? And whatever has been done has been done. And as long as you've done everything properly and above board and ethically, you can't beat yourself up over it. You have to just understand that the past is in the past and that you're going to move forward from now on. And it is easier said now than when you're in it. But that's the only advice I can give. So, I mean, when you go through life, when you take risks, do things the right way so that when shit doesn't work out, you can deal with it. You can manage it. You can have hard conversations. I can't remember who told me this line, but it's like, I can always work with the truth. As shitty as the truth is, we can work with it. We just can't work with a lie. And I think that that's a great mentality to take through business. So, I mean, there's different dollar values that were invested and we tried to do shit with in each one of those companies. At the end of the day, when it goes to zero, it pretty much goes to zero. And then you just have to move on and keep moving forward. But I think that's life advice. Like if you're going to take risks, shit's not going to work out. But people are less upset if you take risk and it doesn't work out as long as you did it coming from the right place. Then, if it doesn't work out, they trusted you, they invested in you, they knew it was a risk. And I think that anyone who thinks about starting a company, raising money, that's always a fear. It's like, what if it doesn't work out? More often than not, if you're raising money from investors or if you're trying something,
Normal people, things like that.
yeah, I know. But the investors know that it's a risk. That's the game they're playing. So take the risk, try to build, do the right thing, and I can guarantee you'll come out of it on the other side, okay? One of my favorite podcasters is Seth Godin. Do you know it?
Yeah.
So Seth Godin is an OG internet marketer. He's like purple. He glasses, yeah, bald guy.
But he wrote the book, The Purple.
Yeah, Purple Cow.
Purple.
Yeah.
Yes.
And he had this line that he said that really stuck with me, and it sort of like guided me throughout my life. And he was just doing like a monologue podcast, and it was a very motivational one. But he said one line. And the line he said was about this. I don't know if you all know this, about the story of Icarus. Icarus is like a very old story about a guy who flew too close to the sun and got burned. It's like an ancient mythology story. Doesn't matter. But the point is, the line he said was, "Don't worry about flying too close to the sun. You won't get burnt, I promise." I mean, you have to take risks. With risk, there is inherently downside. But if you do things the right way and you do things with the best intentions, you will make it out on the other side, okay? And I think that is some of the most important advice because I rather somebody try and fail than not try at all. And I think the world will be better if more people try.
No.
Quick question. I also have a podcast as well myself. I've actually only done audio, And when I did the audio, I only have it like on podcasts. I have it on Apple, Spotify, everything. I wanna expand it. I wanna grow it on a larger scale. If you were in my shoes and you were starting your podcast today, what would be like a couple of steps that you would take to expand it and be able to grow it on a larger scale?
Can I tell you to do video? Is that an allowed answer?
Yeah, of course it is. Yeah.
And
No,
you're
that's
too handsome not to do video, bro. Come on.
Yeah, dude, it's not like you have a face for radio. Like you gotta you show them beautiful. Okay, so the first thing I believe in content in general, the reason why I say do video for a few reasons. First of all, I'm a big fan of being lazy. What do I mean by that? When I started my podcast, I did audio video from like the first episode. And why did I do podcasts? Because I wanted something that I could create once and then I could put it in as many places as I possibly could. Because I'm the marketer. So I know that distribution is everything. So if I create one audio video podcast, that means it goes to Spotify, Apple. That means it also goes to YouTube. That means that I can use a tool like Opus to clip it out into a whole bunch of different clips. That means I can now use some sort of AI tool to transcribe it. I can turn it into a newsletter. I can take one audio video podcast and probably get like 50 pieces of content from it. That's marketing. So in my mind, that's the reason one why you should do video. The second reason is video is the one tool that allows you to build trust. It will build the most trust on social media. The only thing that can build more trust than video is if you literally are in the same room as somebody. And if you want proof of that, if you look at long form video, which is YouTube, and you look at even like short form video, or if you look at newsletters or tweets, when you run marketing campaigns, when you run influencer campaigns on all these different platforms, like say you have $1,000 and you're not gonna put $1,000 on YouTube with some influencer, $1,000 on Twitter with a Twitter influencer, $1,000 in somebody's newsletter, $1,000 on TikTok. Because I've spent marketing budget to try and bring products to market everywhere. And when you run ads with influencers on Twitter, on newsletters, on Instagram, on Substack, on news, on anything outside of YouTube, you'll have okay results. Okay results. Maybe we can get a positive return on that ad spend. When you run an ad with a YouTuber that has long form audio video, that has built up an audience over X amount of years, and they talk about a product, you don't just have like return on ad spend, you can't buy that product in store. That is the power of video. Video is, and I know this because Gina, who's sitting beside you, will tell me when a makeup influencer talks about a product or a cooking recipe on YouTube, and you can't buy the product anymore when you try and go to the store. I think that long form video is the highest trust building tool you can possibly create. And for that reason alone, I would, for my podcast especially, do video as well, because I think that when they not only hear you, but they see you, I think that is the quickest way to turn somebody from like a casual listener into like a super fan evangelist. It isn't just gonna consume you on their workout, but they're gonna like, in their mind, which is creepy when you're the creator, it's cool, I know what happens, but in their mind, they think they know you without actually knowing you. And that's when they're gonna talk about you and they're gonna consume all your other content. And if you need like another reason as to, to sort of validate my thesis, go to a big YouTuber and look at all of their social, and you'll notice they have massive audiences everywhere. Go to a big Twitter account and look at all their social, and they have a big Twitter account. Go to a big Instagram account, they have a big Instagram account, and there's some trickle over, but it's not the same as if you have a big YouTuber. A big YouTuber, their audience follows them to every single platform they have, and I'm 100% sure that's because of the long form video trust building that only video can accomplish. So for that reason, I would definitely do video. Other quick ideas about how to grow a podcast. I mean, we can talk for like an hour, maybe offline, but other quick ideas how to grow a podcast. Content distribution, that's what I mentioned. A collaboration with other big creators. Very tactically, if you're trying to grow a podcast, I would do host swap. So like you interview me, I interview you. Exactly, you got it. 100%. that works. And if you don't even want to do host swap, because also if you're going to try and grow anything, I'm a big believer in advertising something where my audience already is. So if I'm a podcaster, I want to grow a podcast, can I spend money and put up an ad in somebody's newsletter? Yeah, but you know what I have to do if I do that? That means I have to convince a newsletter reader to not only like podcasts, but now like my podcast. So I have to take them through 2 steps. I know you're going to say, well, some newsletter readers like podcasts. I know. But you know what? Maybe 50% of newsletter readers like podcasts. But 100% of people that listen to this podcast like podcasts. So all I got to let them know is that I'm another option. So when you do a host swap, or you do like a feed drop, where you take one of your shows and you put it into someone else's feed and vice versa, and you say, yo, this is so-and-so's podcast. I think you're going to love it. Listen to a full episode. If you like it, go get it wherever you get your podcasts. And all of a sudden, I've given my audience value by showing them a brand new podcast I've never heard of before. And you're tapping into a whole bunch of podcast listeners, 100% of which already like podcasts and just found out that you're an option. So collaboration with other big shows, video, distribution, and those are some, great next steps.
Being an entrepreneur, having a bunch of tasks that you have to handle, how do you manage to stay productive under stress?
It's so interesting because I find that stress makes me productive. I find that stress makes me focused. Explain to me the problem. So when you get stressed, do you feel like you get overwhelmed and do nothing?
I feel like when I have too many tasks that I have to kind of get done by a certain deadline, I freak out and I'm not as productive cognitively. I can't think about doing it efficiently, and I just kind of want to get it done to get it done. So the stress kind of makes my mind foggy and
yeah, okay. So I think that the obvious answer is if you can delegate some of them, but I think that to know what to delegate, there's a few different tools. Have you ever heard of the urgent important matrix? What this is to take all the tasks you have to do and you rank them based on, are they urgent? Are they important? Are they not? And I should delegate them? Or maybe there are things that I shouldn't even do at all. Literally rank out the things. And when you rank them all out, it is impossible for them all to be the same level of urgency and importance. It's just impossible. I mean, with all the things you do in your day, not every single thing needs to be done that day. And not every single thing needs to be done by you. And also, to the point we're talking about before with when kids help you prioritize, not everything even needs to be done at all. And I think that when we have really hard conversations with ourselves about what has to be done now and can only be done by me, that's when you start to clear up your schedule, because then you're forcing yourself to delegate to somebody else because you understand your expertise, your specialty, what an hour of your life is worth. And then you're thinking, okay, is setting up an outbound campaign for my business for sales, is that only something I can do? Or maybe I have to be the person who jumps on the call with the customer once they respond. Is doing my bookkeeping something that I have to do? Or maybe that's something that I can pay somebody. If I go on Upwork, I can pay them $15 an hour to help me once a month with my bookkeeping. If you actually understand what you're good at, what your hour is worth, and then you lay out your tasks and you rank them, you will start to eliminate and you will start to delegate. And another idea that will help you with this is this week it'll be difficult because you haven't done this yet. But this week, what you can do every single Friday, you can use a tool like Loom, which does screen recording, stuff like that. Once a week, document a process that you do. So screen record it plus Google Docs, type down steps, and then that will be a process that you can pass on to someone else. And document everything you do. Every single tool you have to log into, every single thing you have to type up, post, everything. Basically what you do for that exact process. Now it's codified, now it's documented, and now you can send that to a VA or somebody you hire on Upwork for like $6 to $8 an hour, and then they can run with it. But if you never spend time to document, then of course you're like, I don't have anybody who can immediately jump in and do this stuff that I know I shouldn't be doing and I know I should delegate. So like start now and start once a week documenting a process. And then over the course of the year, you're gonna have 52 processes mapped out and documented in a Google Drive. And when a smart VA or a smart person that you hire can take that and then they can run with it and take that off your plate. And over time, you are gonna make yourself so redundant, you are gonna find you actually have nothing to do except the highest value tasks. So I know it's a long answer, but if you go through all those different exercises starting now, you'll rank all the things you have to do, you'll document them, you'll hire, you'll delegate, you'll remove, and then eventually you'll find you actually have nothing to do in your day. And that's when you can focus on the work that you actually enjoy. Hopefully that helps.
Gentlemen, this question is directed for both of you actually, but it comes from something Manning said earlier today. You said, just pick one thing. Just pick one thing and pour your drive into it. I guess, what can you do if you've been on that path for a while, but suddenly life puts you in positions where you start realizing that you have the ability and the skill for another thing that's not exactly what you've been pouring your time for so long, but you don't want to let it go? Is there's anything that you can apply to make that pivotal change to say, well, even though I love this and I put a lot into it, but I'm realizing that I'm actually as good or better at this other thing. How can you, or is there anything that you can apply to make that
Go for it.
shift?
So the first question is, how long is long? Like or how long is a while?
I would say over a decade.
Okay, that's some time. That is a long time. And I can relate to that because I was a personal trainer for over a decade. And then I had to in order to take myself to another level, I had to let go. I was the top personal trainer in Miami. I was training thousands of professional athletes. I was making $500 an hour. Like, that's kind of hard to let go. You know what I mean? Like, every time I was thinking about letting it go, I was like, man, I'm making bank. Like, you know, money. And at that time, it became Ross, kind of easy money, because it's like, once you've been doing it that long, it's like you can do it in your sleep. But the only way for me to take my career and take my brand to the next level, to think beyond hourly and think millions and think, that way, is I had to stop. I had to say no. I had to become a CEO, and I had to start teaching others to create systems and procedures to create little Mannings and other trainers to do what I do in order for me to go on and do bigger and better things. And it's not that I don't like training. In fact, I still have a few clients, and one being my wife. And so every time I'm in it, and Ross will tell you I can't shut up when I see him training his athletes, I start chiming in and like, yo, fix your posture, So I mean, I still have it in me, and I still know I'm good at it, but I think that my purpose was beyond that. So that would be my answer from my experience.
I don't disagree with you. I think that, so first of all, the first thing, are they like two businesses where in both situations you can make money not directly correlated to your time invested? Meaning like, so the goal with any entrepreneur is to remove like their input from like the output directly. Meaning like, if I put in 1 hour of my time, I make so much money. Are both options sort of like the same amount of leverage where you can put in 1 hour of your time and make unlimited money? Or is the first option more like his, where he can only have $500 per hour and it's good, but technically there's a cap on how many hours he can put in? Does that make sense?
That makes sense, and it would be that option. There's a cap. Yeah. Current. But personally, I'm always finding myself, I guess people around work and my day by day, they come up to me, they ask me.
Well, be specific. I mean, that helps. What's the second
like
thing?
How to do this, and people, I found myself that people that don't know me for a very long time, they open up to me with very dark secrets, and they tell me things that I'm like, why are you telling me?
Are you a therapist? I was going to say, you want to be a therapist? Is that where you're going with this?
I don't know, but
So what do you do? What's your job?
I've been pursuing music for a very long time, and I've been in and out of it because, you know, life drags you out, but then you can go back into it. But along my path, on my regular day-by-day interactions, work, whatever, a lot of coworkers, friends, they're constantly sharing me like, hey, I'm going through this. And they go with this whole story of what they're going through, like I have the secret to solve.
Yeah.
And I find myself in that position a lot. So, and I like it. I like it to say some things and make them say, wow, that's exactly what I needed to hear. But I've been pursuing music for so long that I really feel like I want to hit a particular milestone before I shift into something else. I feel like I haven't. Maybe I tell you more of what I have accomplished and you say, dude, you're ready to just shift to another thing. Just like you said, you feel like you haven't accomplished anything. But you have. So I guess that's where my question came from.
Yeah, that's a good, so the easy answer is for me to say something like, well, what you should do in your life is, there's this concept called Ikigai. It's a popular concept and it's a Japanese, yeah. And basically, if you look at a visual, it's like these circles, and each circle has like what you're good at, what you can monetize, what the market needs, what you're passionate about. I think that's more or less what it is. And what you should do is you draw a Venn diagram, all these circles overlap at one point, and what you should do is where all these circles overlap. That's the easy answer. It's a lot harder to apply in real life when there's like two things that you could potentially pursue that you are equally as interested in. I would say that you could be successful at both. I think that's actually the real answer. You could be successful at both. I think that between option one or option two, think of the business that has the highest potential upside and most potential leverage. So if you're a musician, I don't know anything about musicians, but if you're a musician and you make money by like Spotify streams or getting booked to play concerts, and you see that over the past 10 years, you're making like every single year 5% more, and you see the growth trajectory and you see it going in the right direction, and you're like, hey, if I just play X more shows, I see the growth on Instagram, and then I'm getting bigger gigs, and like I see the parts coming together, then you can kind of map out where your career is going to go to a degree. If you feel like you're putting everything and you're throwing, your head against the wall and you're doing the same thing, and the things that were working 5 years ago are no longer working, and your streams are going down, and you're like, unless I reinvent myself, I actually see myself going to zero, then that would be a signal that, okay, so let me try and think of something that maybe there's a better market for it. Or maybe how I show up, I'm more comfortable showing up as somebody who does therapy, or I understand why people need help, so I'm going to put together like self-help content, and maybe I'm going to talk about ideas that can help people get through very difficult times. And that's something I understand very well. And now I see the opportunity because I look at like Mel Robbins and Jay Shetty, and I can write a book and I can put out a whole bunch of content, and I put out a couple reels and they like do like 10x the amount of views than my music content does. And I'm like, shit, there's a signal from the universe. Okay, so to test this out at scale, how do I again commit to it for a long enough period of time where I don't kill the thing that's making me money now, but I can sort of get a little bit of feeling from the market as if this new business idea is going to work, and then I would start to carve out time in my day to test, knowing that it still will take time. But I think the goal is to look for signals of momentum and signals of growth, and if you can't find those, that's when you have to either disrupt yourself and do something new with your music, or disrupt yourself in some other way.
Also, are you a writer?
I am.
So another thing is combining them.
That's true too.
So if you're listening to people and the things you're saying is helping them, then you can start writing songs about those experiences.
And then actually now you're not helping that one person, you're helping the world going through the same things that they're going through.
Isn't like Taylor Swift's music better when she breaks up? 100, yeah. See, I know.
Well, actually, yeah, all artists, most of the time, their first album is their best album because it was when they were the hungriest and down and out or whatever.
Maybe that's the reinvention.
Rap artist.
Maybe that's the reinvention. Maybe you don't even have to switch.
You should start taking on alter egos of all these people's shit problems they have and start writing them. It's like, you might be becoming a country singer.
I love it.
Yeah. All right, we got time for one more question. Yes.
So as entrepreneurs, you're also content creators, right? But we also heard here today a lot of people saying that scrolling is a problem, and we know that scrolling is a problem. So how are you a content creator who studies the blueprint of somebody else that is also a content creator, but also don't become part of the problem of a scroller? So how do you manage to do that and not be on social media, but not be on social media? I guess that's the...
So it's tough. It's very tough because social media platforms, there's a lot of money and smart people that are designing them to hijack your brain and to hijack your attention. I think that, at least for me, I'm going to answer your question from two different perspectives. So the first perspective is kind of what you alluded to, but you didn't say it. Like, if you are a creator, how do you make sure that you're not just putting out more garbage and like basically contributing to someone else's, lack of ability to focus on what matters in their life? And for me, that's why I choose to create the type of content that I do. So when I interview somebody who has sold a company, I've interviewed the founder of Netflix, founder of Reebok, interviewed a few people that have sold companies for 100 million, 500 million plus. I believe that if I do a good job of interviewing them, the information that comes out of them is going to help people more than hurt people. And I know for a fact that if I had done, there's a lot of other types of content that I could put out where my platform would grow quicker, but that would be sort of just putting more garbage onto social media. And to me, that's not what I personally care about. It's not what I want to do. I've always really wanted, if I'm going to create content, or if I'm going to do something like this, or if I'm going to tweet or write a newsletter, I hope that after somebody consumes my content, they're better than before. That's the goal. Now, the second part of your question is, how do you not become a victim of like scrolling? And it's very difficult. I don't consume outside of research as much as possible. I'm just very aware of it. I mean, I'm so focused on, and I'm not saying like once in a while, like we don't like send memes and stuff to each other, like it's fun, but like I try to not doom scroll. I try to stay off Twitter in particular. I just try and stay away from anything that honestly is just going to anger or upset me. And I don't mean to say you should be naive about world events, but you have to be very careful what you let into your head. And you also have to be aware of, you also have to ask yourself, like, how much does this actually impact me in my day to day? Because as humans, we were at one point in history not connected to the internet, and we were not aware of all the stuff that was happening in the world all the time. And I know a lot of it is horrible, but at the same time, you cannot let it impact your own life and damage your own mental health, because it's horrible if something happened in some far off country, but we were not, as humans, ever meant to know about that. So I think that if there's something that is very meaningful to you, fine, research it. If you want to like take on a cause or go champion something, fine. But the constant access to like negative information and stimuli is horrible. So find a way to, whether or not you grayscale your phone or shut it off or no notifications, or literally just stay off Twitter, which is probably half the battle anyways, or X, whatever you want to call it. I think that you have to be conscious of it and just be aware. And if you catch yourself, just understand that like you just have to keep shutting it off. I don't know how else to say it. It's very easy to fall into that trap. But yeah, I don't know, dude.
I get shit for this, but I don't follow people. So, George called me out on that too. He's like, bro, you didn't follow me back. And I was like, I don't follow anybody. So
His content's good though.
you know. And what it does for me is that in the position that I'm in, I found myself trying to keep up with everybody's life. And also tried to be, like, let them know I was keeping up with their life. So trying to be a good friend by making comments and likes and all that. And then I realized, like, this isn't even freaking real. Like, and then half the time they would be posting stuff and I'm like, bro, you just called me and said you're furious with your wife and now you're posting these, like, you know, we had date night and all that stuff. And I'm like, what are you like? And so it just became very obvious to me that Instagram is the highlight reel of people's lives. And I really am trying to have this more. And yes, does it cause sometimes, you know, people feel some type of way or whatever, or they think I'm, you know, some guy called me the other day, what are you, Kanye? You know, so I was like, no, but I don't do it out of ego or anything. I literally do it because I feel like I can stay more focused if I'm not trying to keep up with everybody else. Like, because that is something that we do. And it's a default, you know, that we're like trying to see everybody's kids and trying to see what they're doing. And then you also fall into the comparison, you know, the comparison game of like, you know, someone close to you is on a vacation and you know, you're stuck in your office and you know, it's a highlight reel. It's not even real life happening on you. And they might have had a terrible time on the vacation. And I remember doing the same thing. I mean, I remember my wife and I's honeymoon was like the worst, not because of my wife and I, but we both got food poisoning and the trip was terrible. But we posted the amazing pictures of us on the beach. And like, so you even laugh at yourself. You're like, you know, because you're not going to post, you're over the toilet puking with your wife. Like, that's not going to happen. But you end up posting the best parts. And then, of course, we were like, oh, my God, I wish I was in Colombia and there. And actually, they have no idea that it was the most miserable trip ever. Yeah. So we thought we were going to get kidnapped. But anyways. So, yeah, that's where I stand. But, Scott, you're amazing, first of all.
You're awesome.
And I hope you have me on your podcast, wink, wink. If I haven't sold Netflix or anything yet, but hopefully I'm worthy. I would love to be on your podcast, and you've already provided value to my life just from your first reverse engineer, and now I know exactly what to do Monday morning, and I will be doing that. And that's what I love about.
I'll write the code for you.
But that's what I love about this is that, you know, surrounding yourself with people that have done it before, surrounding yourself, like as soon as I read your newsletter and I went and looked at you, I'm like, okay, I have to meet him. I've got to connect because obviously you have done things that I'm trying to do. And that's what we got to stop doing. We got to let go of our ego and not be like, I can do it better than them. Yeah. No, go learn from them. Go be humble and go put yourself out there and learn from those that have done it before you. At the end of the day, the greatest athletes are the ones that mimic the other athletes that came before me. Kobe Bryant studied Michael Jordan like there was no tomorrow. He literally, from the way he wore his shorts, from the way he walked, from his, like everything. I mean, I think the only thing he didn't do is stick his tongue out, but you know, and that's what it's about. And so if we can do better with collaboration rather than competition and learning from guys like yourself and all the people that we learn from today, we're only going to better ourselves and better our lives. Amen. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, dude.
Thank you, man.
That was awesome.